Forza is a series that has gained a lot of recognition in recent years. While always being popular among Xbox fans, the jump to PC and the success of the Horizon series have made it into a more prominent franchise overall. However, there comparatively still hasn't been a lot of attention to the main motorsport series, at least by the general gaming public, so to speak. Beyond just serving as an effective technical and graphical showcase for Microsoft's hardware, its fans often claim that it is one of the best racing sims out there. Interestingly enough, even though its 7 titles were released pretty close to each other, we haven't received a new game in 5 years. With a series reboot being planned to finally release next year, join me as we will look at each Forza Motorsport game and see how the series' focus and identity has changed over time. As a quick note, I won't be talking about the Forza Horizon series, as I feel that these games stray away too much from the core identity of the motorsport titles, and I feel like they deserve a separate dissection entirely. The first Forza Motorsport is the only one that has been released on the original Xbox. It was developed by Turn 10, a studio founded by Microsoft in Redmond that was intended to only work on racing simulations, with the goal of competing with the incredibly popular Gran Turismo series, exclusive to Sony's PlayStation consoles. It came out in March of 2005, a time in which the potential of the console has been pushed to its absolute limits, only a few months away from the release of its successor, the Xbox 360. And this game definitely shows this. The graphics are pretty impressive for original Xbox standards. The footage captured for this video is from an Xbox 360, however, the game performs indistinguishably on original hardware. However, looks aren't everything, and the frame rate and controls still suffer in the process. Steering feels not great, especially in comparison to newer titles, and honestly, also in comparison to its competition back then. As a competing console-exclusive racing sim, Forza Motorsport fails to impress on a gameplay standpoint when compared to Gran Turismo 4. However, it is the first of a series that received a number of iterative improvements, so it remains to be seen if Forza Motorsport became more competitive over its future installments. Another aspect that seems rather jarring is the game's presentation. The music is rock-centered and features a lot of blaring electric guitars. This might be fitting for a racing game with a rougher aesthetic, for example one centered around rally racing, but it doesn't really fit to this more elegant kind of racing simulation. This is obviously subjective. Someone who generally likes this kind of music might completely disagree with me, but in my opinion this music also kind of clashes with the more elegant menus. Everyone values specific aspects of certain genres of games, so I think it's important to establish why I personally enjoy racing sims before I will make more points that might irritate some viewers. I played racing sims from a very young age onwards. However, I have only started to become more deeply engaged with them for about half a year. I personally am not a huge car enthusiast, so driving a certain kind of dream car is not one of my main concerns when playing a racing sim. What I do appreciate about a well-made racing sim is a clean and comfortable to absorb presentation. And I probably value this more than in any other genre. A large focus of racing sims has been graphical fidelity, and together with an aesthetically pleasing presentation, it can be a sort of relaxing and almost luxurious experience. If these aspects align properly, it becomes the video game equivalent of smoking a cigar and enjoying an expensive glass of whiskey. Of course, the gameplay needs to be engaging, but this is almost always guaranteed and naturally refined from iteration to iteration. Anyway, back to the first Forza Motorsport game. What I have been impressed by is that one of the series' staple features, the drivatar concept, makes its first appearance in this game. The drivatar is an AI driver that learns from your driving performance throughout the game and gets better by it. However, in this game, you are required to separately train and complete challenges in order to improve. This is a shame since in newer installments your drivatar just improves automatically while you're playing the game. for example through the career mode. Speaking of which, the career mode is held back by a weird limitation in which you are required to choose a region before you start. This will solely determine the kinds of cars you will be able to unlock throughout the career. For example, if you choose Europe, you'll be more likely to unlock a Mercedes than a Chevy, and so on. To me, this is kind of arbitrary, since it does not affect the selection of racetracks at all. Even if you have chosen Europe, you will still be able to attend races on Japanese racetracks. Seems like a pointless way to limit the player's selection of cars, in my opinion. Overall, it was definitely interesting to see where this series started from. However, I don't recommend going back to this one. The racing doesn't feel very nice, the HUD looks incredibly boring, and the game's overall presentation just kind of conveys not a lot of enjoyable aspects. But thankfully, it wouldn't take too long for Turn 10 to improve on its newly found franchise. With 2007's second iteration, Forza Motorsport immediately moves into a more appealing territory. The music in the menus is more varied, the presentation is definitely more confident as well, and I was pretty impressed by this, since I feared the absolute worst when I saw the game's ugly looking box art. The racing and the controls have been improved considerably, and I have really enjoyed the simple pick up and play nature of this game's arcade mode. Choose a car, choose the track, win, unlock some new cars, repeat. Since I am not really a fan of the series' career mode and its formula of having to start with unattractive and slow cars, slowly unlocking the better options over time, I prefer this immediate way of playing the game and incentivizing the player effectively. The arcade mode also remains the more appealing single player option to me because the career mode is basically the same as in the first game, including the regional limitation of the cars that can be unlocked throughout. Of course, since this is a racing sim released in 2007, Turn 10 actually had some time to get adjusted to the new hardware of the Xbox 360, and it definitely shows. The graphical upgrade is amazing, and it still looks great today. The lighting especially looks still pretty impressive. Overall, I was positively surprised about how many things the developers got right this time. It shows that they did have a solid base after all, improving on every single aspect of its predecessor and taking great advantage of the hardware. The arcade mode still makes it a nice pick up and play alternative even compared to its successors. However, the series still hasn't found its true identity yet, not until 2009. Forza Motorsport 3 is when the series truly found itself. From the introductory race onwards, you know that you're in for something special this time. This game's presentation symbolizes one thing to me: confidence. The HUD, the music, the minimalist and elegant menus, the announcer.
In order to begin your career, choose Season Play.
It all blends together into the exact experience I'm looking for when playing a racing sim. It is truly impressive how much of a difference a game's presentation can make, and this game is the epitome of this phenomenon. I'm stressing this because on a gameplay level, there's practically not much of a difference that can be felt with Forza Motorsport 2. The game's HUD and the new camera angles are nice, but the controls have not been improved in any way, which is alright because if it ain't broke, don't fix it. This game also puts a larger emphasis on the career mode. Right after the introductory race, you are asked to choose your first car and are thrown into a number of races right away. The career mode has definitely been improved. They have removed the original restriction of unlockable cars, as well as introduced a larger variety of challenges and races to choose from at any point of the career. However, Forza Motorsport 3 positions the career mode as the main single-player offering in the game. This has been probably also done to further streamline the game. However, it does remove the arcade mode and the pick up and play aspect, which I enjoyed throughout the last installment. With the introduction of driver level and affinity level, the player is more incentivized to play the career mode. As a long-term motivation, I definitely get the appeal with leveling up and collecting XP in order to get new kinds of goodies. But as someone who mainly enjoys racing sims as a more short-term kind of entertainment, I find it frustrating having to win countless races in simply unenjoyable cars in order to unlock better vehicles and finally have more fun in the game. This means that the only other option is the free race mode. While you are able to quote-unquote rent cars that you haven't unlocked in the career mode yet, it means that you won't be able to collect any kind of XP or other extrinsic rewards for racing. Even if you are enjoying a free race every now and then, the game's reminder that you won't receive any kind of rewards for your race win does seem pretty disappointing. Overall, I think that Forza Motorsport's refocus is well done and well intentioned. I just personally don't enjoy it as much. The game is the best-selling installment in the whole series, which probably helped solidify its core aesthetic and design philosophy. The new logo, the elegant presentation, the announcers, the focus on a more specialized and personalized career mode all carry over into its subsequent sequels and remain series staples. On a gameplay perspective, barely anything changes in the following installments. So how were the newer games able to distinguish themselves from this massively influential title?
In an age of hybrid this and lentil-matic that, we are the odd ones out. Yet there is hope. There is a haven. A place that celebrates speed, grip, gears, and fun. And it's all here for you to explore.
With the last title on the Xbox 360, 2011's Forza Motorsport 4 attempts to one-up its predecessor by improving the graphics and introducing a couple of new features. This game portrays itself as not simply a racing game, but as a way to enjoy and examine luxury cars in a virtual environment. The Auto Vista mode, featuring commentary from Top Gear's Jeremy Clarkson, is a surprisingly entertaining way to convey a car's characteristics and personality.
With a flat underbody aerodynamic design, the 458 Italia achieves considerable downforce, nearly 800 pounds worth at top speed. Amazingly, it accomplishes this without relying on a large rear wing.
To unlock the cars viewable in this new mode, the player is tasked to win a short challenge for each of the cars, ranging from having to overtake a set amount of cars or just simply winning a race. Besides that, the gameplay is practically more of the same. What I like is the way that each action of the player, whether it's passing an opponent or taking a turn, is graded on the fly by indicating a rating from 1 to 4. The simple bars presented help the player to quickly learn from their mistakes, improve their driving skill, and become better not after, but already during the race. The career mode offers a new number of Top Gear themed challenges, which are pretty silly but get the job done when it comes to breaking the monotony of simple racing. Connect support has been added, yeah, but it is so negligible that it can be reduced to a simple excuse in order for the marketing team to present some kind of new selling point. By moving their head, the player is able to move the camera while racing. That is all. Besides the aforementioned marketing perspective, I can't understand at all why the developers even bothered implementing such an unnecessary feature. With everything said, Forza Motorsport 4 remains as an enjoyable way to end the series' presence on the Xbox 360, the console in which the core series has been the most successful, and arguably the most focused as well. Entering the age of the Xbox One, it quickly becomes apparent that the series' best days lie in this era. There is no way of saying it otherwise, but Forza Motorsport 5 is the most uninteresting title in the series so far. In so many ways, it is a less fleshed out and more simplified version of the fourth title, that there is simply no reason in playing it nowadays. The main reason this game exists is because of its role as the main launch title of the Xbox One in 2013. On a graphical level, of course, this game definitely still holds up. The presentation is also nice and keeps in line with the established identity of the third game, but it all just feels kind of pointless. As a bare bones title with practically no new features besides the fancy new graphics, it is an easily skippable title nowadays. Unfortunately, this doesn't really get better with the sixth installment. With 2015's Forza Motorsport 6, an introduction of rain and night races are presented as its main selling points. Unlockable cars, in-game money and other things can now be unlocked through spins that are accessible after leveling up. And besides that, I honestly don't really know what to say. Of course, the game looks beautiful, and in comparison to the previous title, the team working on it had a more definitive grasp when it came to the Xbox One specifications. With much more content but not any mind-blowing kind of innovations, it is essentially a better version of Forza Motorsport 5. And now we already have arrived at the series' current installment. In 2017, Forza Motorsport 7 tried to re-emphasize the game's focus on collecting cars. This is supported by the game's insane collection of over 800 cars, almost doubling the selection of the previous installments. Cars can be unlocked through the career mode, which introduces a lot of interesting one-off challenges, as well as, simply leveling up. And of course, also microtransactions. It is interesting that this installment started to lean more heavily into the car collecting aspect, considering that was one of the intended goals of designing the first game in the series. And I wouldn't mind the car collecting concept if it wasn't so incredibly damaging to the game's free race mode. You're not able to rent any car in the game like you could in the older titles. Instead, you're only allowed to race with the cars you have unlocked already. Even more bafflingly, cars are separated into different levels of collection. You increase your collection level by unlocking or collecting more cars. This means that if you have unlocked a car from the 5th collection tier, you can't use it in a free race mode if you haven't leveled up your collection enough. The decision to lock players away from content like that, especially since it has been possible to use any car in a free race mode in the previous installments, comes across rather predatory to me in order to push microtransactions. The game's overall presentation also suffers from this focus on collectibles. Since you are able to customize your driver's clothes as well, they will always hang around in the main menu, which gives it a cheap and not very serious feel to the experience. It gives it the kind of atmosphere you see in a Fortnite menu. I personally also don't like the music, which weirdly enough is most comparable to the first two installments. In general, this is probably the first big misstep in the series, and by trying to mix the formula up, they made a couple of irritating mistakes along the way. I can understand that other players wouldn't mind or would even be enticed by this kind of game design. However, I think it goes against what a racing simulation should emphasize more. I think that here it shows that the release of so many titles in such a short time span was not really necessary. They hardly improve on each other or even make steps backwards, So it is difficult to understand why there had to be a new game every 2 years, besides just cashing in on being the console's most profitable exclusive IP. Forza Motorsport 5 as an impressive looking launch title would have been more forgivable if it would have been presented like one of these Gran Turismo prologue type games, while Forza Motorsport 6 could have served as the console's main title. The Xbox One era just mirrors Microsoft's overall confusion and cluelessness when it came to gaming, both with its console and exclusive titles. So what does the future hold? The next title, set to be released in 2023, is simply called Forza Motorsport, and that implies that the series is going to be rebooted. This is something I can definitely understand, especially after the 7th title. Coming 6 years after the last game, it is by far the largest gap between the game's installments. Of course, another graphical leap is to be expected, but what about gameplay features? Will it include more kinds of racing sports? And how will its presentation be? Will it still follow the core aesthetic introduced by Forza Motorsport 3? Or will it establish itself as a new era for the stagnating franchise? Thank you for watching this video. Have a good one.